friends, this is Chandra from Akulmac Technologies. Welcome to Top Brass. Today, we are joined by Mr. Ramesh Krishnan, who is a business development and channel leaders, and he's working for a security company based in San Francisco. Welcome to the show, Ramesh.
Hey, good evening, CK. How are you? It's nice to see you.
Yes, Ramesh. In fact, what I feel is that this lockdown situation that is affecting the globe has brought people together even before what we were. And look at you, both of us. We are talking after a decade.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. First of all, thank you for reaching out. It's been ages. I think it's been 15 years, more than a decade and a half. When we last, we were colleagues, and we remained in touch. But I've been back here for quite a while, and it's nice to see you. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to talk to you.
Same here. You're looking as energetic and as jovial as ever, Ramesh. Please keep it up.
Well, that's very kind of you. It's still only 8:30, 8:45 in the morning over here. Give it a few more hours. I mean, after I, get through the day and, do a little bit of things on the weekend, maybe at that time, I don't know about the energy part. One has to maintain a sense of humor about a lot of things. So thanks for saying that. And you look very well, man. You don't look like any different than what I have seen you. It doesn't look like you've aged at all. I mean, I lost all my hair, but
Yeah, so I think I can share some secret. I do cycling to work about 60 kilometers every week. That's my routine. So I have made my routine, and even in this lockdown, I have a cycle at home, so I keep cycling. And from when we were together, I was working for you as part of your team member. From that point, I've lost about 17 kgs.
so we have something in common. Saturday mornings, I normally do a bike ride between about anywhere from 30 miles to about 50 miles. It's going to rain today, so can't bike. So I love biking, bike all the time. So that's my excuse for not biking. But there are other things that you do. I have a big park right behind my home where I live, and not too far from. We're about 40 miles south of San Francisco. But as you know, I live in these days. The entire planet is kind of in a situation which we have never been confronted, and for some of us, working from home has been pretty business as usual. You remember, I used to have a home office, back when you and I were colleagues. I mean, and so for 20 plus years, I've had a home office, and work from home has been part of that regimen for me. So the work from home is not new. But what's new is that now the work from home is actually a shared work from home, right? I mean, so like everybody else, I have a family. My wife is also a healthcare professional who works for a large hospital locally, and as a researcher. And then my daughter is home. Her schooling is now all online. So there is always, now it's a shared work from home. So everybody's got their vantage points. We've got to share not just the living space, but also the bandwidth. I mean, and these days bandwidth has become kind of the most precious commodity for a lot of people. Everybody's on video calls, so obviously, it puts a lot of strain on the network. And then when you take breaks, and especially if you have a teenager, I mean, they do have their little social interactions with their friends, and plus Netflix is a big thing, right? So they consume that. So it's kind of brought a very new way of sort of the work-home, work-life balance in terms of how people are taking their day-to-day activities. So that's the most interesting thing that is going on. I do not know if you're aware. I live in Santa Clara County, which is one of the largest counties in the Bay Area, in the San Francisco Bay Area. And we were the first ones to go into what is called a very restricted shelter-in-place directive, which means the schools were closed. I mean, all educational, institutions, anything that is non-essential was pretty much closed. So none of the malls are open, etc. And so, it's a very different. So we just completed our third week in, shelter in place. And what we have seen is that the the social distancing, and I'd say it's actually more of physical distancing. I think socially people are becoming far more active. Our own example, we have connected after 15 years. Well, we should have been connected before, but did we do that because the world is going through a shutdown, lockdown? It's called different things. It's all the same thing, right? I mean, we are all pretty much in a very restricted physical movement outside. But what it has done is it's restricted the physical distancing, which is a very good thing. Socially, I think people are coming more closer together virtually without being face to face. So that's what's really going on. And in Santa Clara, what has happened is that we had to do this first because we were the largest number of the virus incidents, number of reported cases, etc. That actually came out in the Bay Area was in Santa Clara. So we had to do this first. But the good news is because we shut the county down first, even ahead of the country, our curve and I don't want to call it a trend, it's only 2-week data. So it will become a trend over time. But right now, the sign is that we seem to be on a flatter curve relatively versus other parts of the country and even other parts of the world. I don't know. How has it been for you?
Uh, yes, so in India, it is a very strict lockdown. In fact, we have cops patrolling the streets. There are very heavy fines, and there is a new law which is imposed, which is a disaster. I mean, there is a new law which is now running, which is which is applicable during the disasters. So nobody is allowed to walk on the street, but things are coming to us. So life is not changed. Essentials services are running smoothly. Um, but I think I would like to ask you, because you have 3 decades of experience, and none of us have seen this kind of situation ever in life. At least our generation. My parents have seen the lockdown during the war, but I think none of us have seen it. Neither you would have seen this kind of a situation. What do you think, from your point of view? Will this change the way we do business, or do you think that life will become normal after a few days?
I think it's a matter of perspective. So I was a little child when that last aggression in India happened. And as you know, I was raised in India. And, when we had what was called blackouts, and if you talk to your parents, they will tell you we had to black tape, we had to put this black paper, like a chartboard paper on our ventilators, in the homes. And in Delhi homes, we used to have a ventilator which is all the way on the top of the ceiling and all that. So the cars going with the half blackened headlamps actually started at that time. So we used to have a lockdown from 6 p.m. in the evening till 6 a.m. And there were trenches dug in every park. So if you talk to that generation, they will tell you. And I was a little child, so I do have memories of it. But like you said, the world hasn't seen anything like this before. See, there it was a very different thing, right? I mean, you had an identified physical aggression that was happening. Right now, what has happened is that there is a virus that is out there which is not discriminating based upon the color of a person, or the race of a person, or the culture of a person, or border, where this can just pretty much now permeate itself into the ecosystem that we broadly call the globe, right? So I think we are faced with a common enemy, which is the virus. I mean, and it has been a wake-up call for the entire planet. And for a change, there are pluses and minuses. The good thing is that there seems to be at least a coalescence of ideas globally in terms of how do we beat this. There are countries that are sharing their data, it's out there, and how many people have been affected. Countries are shutting borders not because they don't want to trade with others, they just want to prevent the further proliferation of this virus. So I think it is causing a lot of anxiety for a lot of people, just because it's uncharted. These are really uncharted waters for a lot of people, for the majority of the globe, irrespective of how old or young you might be. And I think, to your question, is it going to change the way we do business? I think here's what's going to happen, right? I mean, we do not know for certainty when business as usual, or business as we knew it, or life as we knew it, is going to go back into that particular approach or that way of living, right? A lot of ways, if you look at it more from a sort of soul searching or spirituality perspective, you say, well, did the human beings do this to the planet by so much growth and such rapid, sort of expectations, or trying to grow beyond a certain rate? And does it have to really be that? I mean, can we not um, sort of contain some of that, and so that we can be a far more cohesive global community? I mean, take an example, for instance. Prior to coronavirus, what were we hearing? We were hearing about bad incidents happening all around the world, whether it's got to do with a small minority element that goes and decides to either kill some people or whatever it is that they do. um, I think that type of heinous crime is completely, we don't hear it. I mean, can you even tell me where, on which channel, that you can go and hear something like that, right? So I'm not saying that this is the antidote to killing things like terrorism and all that, but my point is that I think it's, I get the message, if I were sitting in other parts, I would say we can actually work with each other despite the differences that we have, so that we can bring down the incidence of any kind of border aggressions and what you have, but just sort of simply working with each other. I mean, so that's maybe the positive that has come out. Now, will it change the way we work in the future? I think this will definitely have an impact on how we go about doing our daily business. uh, you know and I think from a family structure perspective, I think a lot of families have started enjoying this time together. I mean, they are carving out family time versus work time, etc. So maybe this is in a way more social integration within a family, a nuclear family. It's also more social integration, keeping in touch with friends with whom you might have never spoken for 10 years or 15 years or whatever. That on the social side, that would change. What do
Yeah.
you think?
So, in my opinion, I feel that this is going to continue for some more time, because the virus is not going to vanish so soon. And but my more pertinent question is that if the virus is not going away, then we will always suspect the other person. We can always say, because of the social distancing, but we can get into virtual closeness, because we can't talk to the other person or meet the other person. So there could be some opportunities or new way of doing business or new application opportunities for uh, various organizations and stuff like that. That is what I feel.
Well, so two things, right? I mean, for a large portion of at least the technologies and the industries that I have been and you have been, um, we conduct a lot of business. Like, for instance, my job is global, and I don't travel all the time to go meet somebody who's sitting in, say, Asia Pac or Africa or Middle East or Latin America. A lot of times it is through a video call or a phone call. I mean, the thing that has changed is there are more video calls now than there were before, only because there is that closeness. You see, the visual impact of a conversation is actually far more valuable than just a pure, voice that is at an end of a wire or wireless or whatever you want to call it, right? So I think a large portion of the technology world, at least, and a large portion of that large global business has been conducting itself virtually for a long time. We've just not been so aware of it. Now that the situation is forced on us, we think, oh my God, I mean, like, what is this? We have to do business this way. Actually, it's not that. It's just more that we are using the virtual technology real time to conduct business, right? I mean, we've always done that. We just never mentally thought about it, right? This is making us think about it.
Right.
The other thing I'll say is I'm a glass half full guy. So you have to hold hope. So this is not going to be a permanent situation. We all know that. There are vaccines being developed, which will not be available this year, but will definitely be available next year. So if you think that people are going to avoid each other because I don't know that you have the virus or not, you got to think about it. The world overcame smallpox. Okay, how did the world do that, right? How did we do that? Through a vaccine, right? I mean, so when there can be mandates, like India has done a great job, I think, in terms of locking down the entire country, and there is a discipline around it, right? And would you imagine that 1 billion+ people can actually do that? Well, you are living it, so you know it. It's different, yes, in the rural area. I understand that there is a challenge with the migrant workers and all that, but despite that, there is law enforcement that is actually helping people without sort of going after somebody, right? And adhering to the rules. So I do believe that people will not be that hesitant to shake hands. As you develop a vaccine over time, it may take us time. I'm not saying this is going to happen in like June and July or end of this year. I'm saying that there is a long-term view that we have to take a look, right? Where people will get far more comfortable with each other in terms of the physical interaction along with the social interaction. I don't think that'll be so much of a challenge, but it will take time to get there. Yeah, will there be hesitation for parents of young kids to send their kids back to a daycare? Yeah, you can understand why. We are all parents. You know, the research thus far shows that this is only targeting a certain age group. I don't think so. I don't think a virus really cares. I mean, maybe the child has a greater immunity to it, and that's a different matter. So, it can be debated. There are a lot of science. There are a lot of scientists and doctors who will tell you, no, children are not, they have immunity, but they cannot be immune to everything, right? So, I think there will be a slow kind of trajectory in which that will start happening. I don't think it'll be that bad though. I don't think people will avoid each other and things like that over time. But we don't know. The challenge is, how do you predict when that will happen?
So let's hope that this gets over soon. In the meanwhile, if there are new opportunities, there are entrepreneurs who are who are thinking of doing new innovations. They are most welcome to do innovations to help public by and large. But more important, I would like to say that it was such a great pleasure talking to you, Ramesh, and hearing your voice after a decade, or maybe more than a decade. And really appreciate your advices and your insight on this issue. So
Oh,
thank you so much.
no, my pleasure too. Thanks for reaching out. And I agree with you. It's going to create a lot of innovation for a lot of people. Out of necessity, out of crisis comes, ideas. And they always say necessity is the mother of invention, right? So I'm sure there are a lot of entrepreneurs out there who are going to come up with some amazing technologies and ways of doing business, even non-technical, etc. And I'm very positive that will happen. I appreciate you reaching out. It's good to hear you, see you, and chat with you. And I look forward to more interactions in future.
Certainly,
Thank you.
Certainly, Ramesh. I think we have lockdown few more days left. Today is day 12. There are a few more days left. So we will find another opportunity to talk to you to check out how things are, because your county has done already tremendous job to contain the virus. We'll check on you after a week or so. Again.
Sure, we are locked down till May 3rd at least, if not longer. So we have a long way to go.
I will always catch you here.
Take care.
Take care and be safe. Be positive.
Yeah. Same here. Stay safe and be well. You too.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.